now at 5:30 on Newswatch.
A Coolville woman is still in critical condition after a robbery.
A preview of the upcoming legislative session in Columbus.
And could Ohio men's basketball grind out another conference win at home?
Broadcasting live from WOUB TV in Athens. This is Newswatch.
A Zanesville healthcare system is now a level 3 trauma center. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dominique Buccina.
And I'm Morgan Lentes. Patients can now stay in Zanesville for treatment and observation rather than sending anyone with a traumatic injury to Columbus. Genesis Healthcare System received the official designation this month. A review by the American College of Surgeons shows Genesis was providing safe and appropriate trauma care and deemed the hospital capable of caring for trauma patients. Designation is reevaluated every 3 years to ensure hospital staff are maintaining quality care. A new $4.6 million aluminum stretcher is up and running at a Ravenswood plant. Constellium Rolled Products officials say the stretcher will reduce internal stresses in the metal created by other steps the manufacturing process. The plant produces aluminum plate for aerospace and defense markets, coil products for transportation, marine, and industrial uses. The plant is Jackson County's largest employer with about 1,000 workers.
Parkersburg will have a permanent division of motor vehicles regional office by late summer. The DMV expects to award a construction contract for a new office in March. Driver's license renewals, vehicle titling, and other services are currently being offered at a temporary site in the Park Shopping Center. Also being constructed in West Virginia is the memorial for 29 miners killed in the 2010 explosion of the Upper Big Branch mine. Construction began yesterday on the Granite Memorial in Whitesville. The Upper Big Branch Mining Memorial Group raised money to pay for the memorial. The group hopes the project will be completed by April 5th, the anniversary of the tragedy.
Fairfield County Sheriff's deputies are searching for a man who is suspected of robbing a bank. A man entered the Fairfield County People's Bank in Carroll at 10 a.m. yesterday demanding money. Investigators say the suspect has been identified from surveillance photos and a warrant has been issued for his arrest. Deputies aren't saying who the suspect is until they arrest him. The 80-year-old Coolville woman who was stabbed during a home invasion is still in recovery. Oda Vincent is in stable yet critical condition. She was attacked in her house when she was sleeping. She told an Athens County 911 operator that she only remembered a bright light and later saw her pocketbook was taken. Investigators are working on the case but haven't had a chance to talk to Vincent because of many wounds to her mouth and face. Sheriff Pat Kelly says that investigators hope to have a solid lead soon.
We have had leads. We are getting calls, a lot of calls. The deputies are working tirelessly to try to solve this case.
We now know the name of a driver of a semi who was killed in an Athens County crash yesterday, and it has been released. 49-year-old Philip Mallett of Dayton was killed after running off the road and hitting the guardrail and sign pole.
And good evening from the Newswatch Weather Center. I am Katie McGraw. With all the rain that we've been seeing, the National Weather Service has issued a flood watch. This is in effect until tonight. And be aware throughout the entire night that watches very easily can turn into warnings with all the excess amount of rain that we've been seeing, plus the already wet ground. There's a strong chance to see floodings for especially the smaller creeks and streams. Now for current temperatures around the region, right now all of our temperatures are ranging in the upper 40s to upper 50s. Coolest temperature is in Columbus at 45. Warmest is in Huntington and Ashland at 58. Everyone's seeing a light rain for right now, and that is because of a very strong low pressure system that is currently sitting right over us, and that is what's just dousing us with all of this moisture. We've seen significant amounts of wetness throughout the past day, and that is going to continue for your overnight. 90% chance to see rain at 9 p.m. at 43 degrees, 80% for the rest of the night. Chilliest temperature at 39. Morgan and Dominique.
You know, Katie, the weather was absolutely dreadful today. Tell me there's hope that it's going to get better tomorrow.
You know what, Morgan, I have good news for you coming up in my full forecast.
All right, thanks, Katie.
Sure.
A retired Vinton County judge will fill the 87th Ohio House District seat. The Ohio House Speaker confirmed today Philip Rose agreed to take on the position in the interim until a new representative is elected. Rose will act as representative until the winner of the March primary is certified. The Ohio Senate leader says some Republicans in the caucus have been reviewing the idea of repealing a new elections law. The law would trim early voting days and make other changes. The law has been on hold until voters can decide in November whether it should be kept. The Republican Secretary of the state told election officials that he believes the GOP legislature should repeal the measure and write a new bill after this year's presidential election. Other legislation being discussed in Columbus are measures to ban pollution related to fracking.
Hydraulic fracturing, and at the same time be able to preserve the environment. It cannot be a choice of one or the other. And I've made it clear to the big companies, almost all of whom I've met with, you get this right. And what I worry about more than anything else are some firms that come in and want to take advantage of things. That's why we have to have the proper permitting process. But we don't want to become so extreme we drive them away.
Governor John Kasich says tough regulations are needed so increased drilling activity does not harm the environment. Kasich's administration is looking at practices in other states for ideas.
Ohio is having a tough time enforcing President Obama's anti-dropout law. During his State of the Union speech, the president challenged state governments to require students to stay in school until they graduate or turn 18. Ohio is one of 20 states that's already doing this, but at least 23,000 Ohio teens still dropped out last year during the school year. And smokers need not apply for a job at one of the new Ohio casinos in Columbus and Toledo. Applicants will be screened for nicotine and disqualified if they test positive. That could include those who chew tobacco or use nicotine patches. Many hospitals and other employers ban smokers from hiring pools in an effort to reduce healthcare costs.
The execution has been halted for a man who says he's innocent in an arson fire that killed his 3-year-old son. Michael Webb has argued that a leading arson expert can prove the 1990 fire in Southwest Ohio could have been set anywhere in the house. He says that the expert's case backs up his argument that someone else did it.
Well, tax season is upon us, and that can cause a lot of headaches for people trying to figure out how to file correctly.
Coming up, we'll talk with an official from the Ohio Benefit Bank who is setting up a tax assistant program to answer your income tax questions. And President Obama is greeted not so warmly in Arizona. Next on Newswatch.
President Obama says his administration will open a large area in the Gulf of Mexico for oil and as exploration and development. He is discussing the sale of the oil and gas drilling leases on about 38 million acres in the Gulf. This comes days after the president rejected a cross-country oil pipeline that would have delivered Canadian tar sands oil to Texas. And usually when the president travels to a city, he's greeted with handshakes and pleasantries, but not yesterday. President Obama had an encounter with Arizona's governor on his five-state tour, the election battleground states. Nanette Sosa has the details on what went down.
President Obama is in the middle of a 3-day tour through key swing states to talk about the economy.
We are making progress.
But the talk of his trip so far has been his encounter with Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. The president stepped off Air Force One yesterday, and moments later, he and Brewer, behind that limo, were seen exchanging words. Brewer says the president took offense with how he was portrayed in her book on immigration, Scorpions for Breakfast.
I wanted to be there to welcome him to come and see firsthand what Arizona has done in regards to our economic recovery. He wanted to talk about the book, and I thought that he was pretty thin-skinned.
Brewer says the president objected to her writing that he had been uncordial in the past. At one point during the exchange, Brewer was seen pointing her finger toward the president's face.
I was not hostile. I was trying to be very, very gracious. I respect the office of the president, and I would never be disrespectful in that manner.
Brewer says she invited the president back to Arizona for a meeting on Arizona's economy. The White House says President Obama would be glad to meet again, but that Brewer, quote, inaccurately described their last meeting at the White House in her book. I'm Nanette Sosa reporting.
President Obama is visiting states to talk about his plan for the U.S. economy he laid out in his State of the Union address.
And General Motors CEO is defending the Chevy Volt. The electric car was thrown under the bus when its batteries caught fire after government crash tests. Dan Akerson testified before a House committee saying inspectors put the batteries through unrealistic conditions.
We engineered the Volt to show the world what great vehicles we make at General Motors. Unfortunately, there's one thing we did not engineer. Although we loaded the Volt with state-of-the-art safety features, we did not engineer the Volt to be a political punching bag. And sadly, that is what it's become. For all the loose talk about fires, we are here today because tests by regulators resulted in a battery fire under lab conditions that no driver would experience in the real world. In fact, Volt customers have driven over 25 million miles without a similar incident.
The committee also released a report asking whether the government's investment in GM played a role in the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, waiting months before releasing information on the fires. And a memorial service is being held at State College this evening to cap off 3 days of mourning for former Penn State head football coach Joe Paterno. A crowd of more than 12,000 filled the basketball arena on Penn State's campus this afternoon. Speaking to the large crowd inside at the public memorial service, a former Penn State quarterback said no one anywhere in the country had done more for Penn State. Several former Penn State football players and students spoke about Paterno's effect not just on the school's athletic reputation, but also its educational pursuits. The words were shared with Paterno's family, including his wife and their children and grandchildren, who looked on with pride at Paterno's accomplishments and memories.
Tax day is rapidly approaching. You've got until Tuesday, April 17th to file your taxes. And because taxes can be pretty confusing, the Ohio Benefit Bank has created a tax assistance program to help area residents with their basic income tax forms. So we've got a representative from the group here to tell us more about it. Barbara Roundtree, joins us in the studio. Pardon me. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what this tax assistance program is.
Well, it's a program that's offered through the Ohio Benefit Bank, which is a computer program offered in the state of Ohio since 2005. But it's available, and it's a walkthrough program. There's trained counselors all over the state of Ohio that can assist you with walking through these taxes. There's also a self-serve link that anybody that has a computer with high speed could access it and fill out their own taxes. And the service is completely free. They can do a direct filing e-file and direct deposit and have their return back in less than 2 weeks.
So we all know taxes are kind of confusing. What are some of the specific things you help people with at this program?
The biggest thing is some people just are not comfortable completing their own tax return, and it's a walkthrough program, and it's been approved by the IRS. So we just walk through it question by question, just as if you went into a tax consultant and talked with them, except they give us the answers and make the decisions. Some people are not aware that there's some things they can claim on their taxes, such as medical expenses, any out-of-pockets, co-pays for doctor's visits, prescriptions, any portion of their medical premiums that they pay for themselves, that they can claim that also on their taxes. Some people are they're unsure of who qualifies as a household member. If you have someone living in your home and they earn less than $3,700 and you offer more than 50% of what it takes to run that household, and you can claim that person as a deduction. So
who are some of the people, I understand, who's eligible for this program?
Anyone that has an adjusted gross income of $60,000 or more. There are some limitations to the program, so like I said, it's a prompted program. There's some filing forms that we just absolutely, we can't accommodate people. If someone has a lot of capital gains, if someone has rental properties, we do self-employment filing as long as their expenses do not exceed $5,000, because there's just some data when you put it in, if you exceed it, we can't go any further.
So it sounds like this is a big job you guys have, and I understand you were telling me before the show that you guys actually need some help with it. Where can people, if they're interested in getting involved with this program, get information?
Well, we have an 800 number, and that's 385-6813, and there's 3 people there, but they'll put them through to extension 2236. We train anyone that's interested in being a tax counselor. There's no calculating or anything like that. People think that we're asking them to make judgments, of what goes where, and this is a completely prompted system, and it's very simple to follow. As I said, we're booked for the next 4 weeks. Taxes solid, and anyone that would like to attempt to file their own taxes, they could go to the Hocking Athens Perry Community Action website and click on the Ohio Benefit link, and they can use the self-serve and file their own taxes. If they have any questions, they can call us at that same 800 number, and we will walk them through it.
All right, well, it's good information. Barbara Roundtree, thanks for being here tonight.
All right, thank you so much.
And stocks closed lower today than expected after an impressive morning rally that pushed the Dow above its highest closing price since before the financial crisis. Weak reports on the housing market and economic growth in the nation are being blamed for the drop in stock prices. And here's a look at stocks of local interest.
And coming up on Newswatch, I'm sure everyone is wondering, is the rain going to be sticking around? Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? I'm going to cover all this in my extended forecast. Stay tuned. Newswatch will be back in 60 seconds. And welcome back to Newswatch. The past couple of weeks, this is now the 3rd consecutive week of this yo-yoing of weather that we've been seeing. Highs up in the 60s this week after a sheet of ice that was Athens last Friday. And that is continuing right now. There is a flood watch in effect issued by the National Weather Service. For right now, that is just a watch. But do keep in mind that watches, as I said before, very easily can turn into warnings. But for right now in Athens, it is currently 51 degrees, or 53, I apologize. The winds are out of the south at 9 miles an hour. Humidity is currently at 93, and that's pretty high, and that is because the dew point is only 2 degrees below our actual temperature at 51. The pressure is currently holding steady at 29.74 inches. And for our almanac today, we saw a high of that should be 53, apologize, typo, and a low of 34. That's just about seasonable, as once this cold front starts to move through, it's going to become much more seasonable than it was today. And for our record, we were in the negatives for that low, so thank God we're not at that point for today. So what's going on? There's a very strong low pressure system, and as that starts to move through our region, it's going to continue to drop temperatures. Also, keep in mind that all of the winds are coming from the south, as I just said. So what that's going to do, that's going to continue to hike up those dew point temperatures. So the closer the dew point is to the actual temperature, you're going to see more and more precip. Then for tomorrow, as we move through, you can see that low pressure system moved off to the north-northeast, and there's going to be a couple lingering showers in the morning. But when I say showers, it's not going to be rain, it's going to be snow. But don't fret, it is not going to have any accumulation for that snow. Then for tomorrow night, as we start to move through, there's going to be a ridge of high pressure that builds in, and as that's going to clear the skies for tomorrow night, so it is going to get a little bit chillier, especially as that cold front starts to move through. Then Saturday, another cold front starts to move through. It's going to be pretty nice in the morning on Saturday, and then there's a chance to see a couple showers. It's only at 30%, and then the evening's going to be really nice, and then Sunday's going to be the same flip-flopping. As in the morning, you can see the rain on Sunday. For the amount of rain that we're going to be seeing, only a tenth to a quarter of an inch. At best, we could see another inch for this rain for tonight. And then for tomorrow, it's just going to be a trace. And just to point out all the records that we've been seeing for today, we saw 0.9, sorry. Clicker is not really working, so just bear with me. We saw almost an inch today as we went through. And overall, compared to what we've normally been seeing, it's a lot of rain for one day. Then for the lows, the highs are going to stay about where they should be, seasonable temperatures, but the lows are going to continue to drop 29, 25, 23, and then 21. And then if we take a look for our forecast tonight, I apologize. My clicker is not working, so they're trying to bear with me upstairs. So if we take a look for our low for tonight, it's a low of 33. There's a 90% chance to see heavy rain, and as I said, at best we could see 1 inch. And then for tomorrow, there's a 50% chance to see morning snow showers, a high of 44. And then for your daily planner for tomorrow, that's only at 6 a.m., that's at 50% chance to see some snow, and then it's going to be decreasing clouds throughout the entire day as that ridge of high pressure starts to build in. And then for your 7-day forecast, rain or snow on Friday morning, rain Saturday morning, rain Sunday morning, and then it'll finally be sunny on Monday.
I asked you for some good news immediately, but it looks like we're going to have to wait until next week for it. All right, thank you, Katie.
Sure. All right, Justin and I heard the men's basketball team had another big night.
Yeah, another big conference win at home, but they also released some pretty big news today. Ohio Athletics is moving one of its most successful promotions indoors. And it's also a landmark weekend for Ohio hockey. Find out what makes these matchups so special next on Newswatch. It wasn't exactly pretty, it wasn't exactly fluid, but winning seasons aren't always built on flash and beauty. Just ask Ohio men's basketball, who's become used to grinding out home wins. They did just that last night, escaping a nail-biter with Western Michigan and picking up their third straight win, 56-51. After jumping out to a 29-14 lead with 5.5 to go before halftime, the Broncos used a 16-1 run to knot the score at 30, heading into the locker room. Ohio had to grind it out for the entire second half, with a late surprise push coming from Ricardo Johnson. The sophomore hung 9 points and 7 boards in place of foul-ridden Walter Offit. DJ Cooper led the Cats with 18 points, 8 of which led his team in that second half. Ohio improves to 16-4 overall and an 11-1 at the Convo, while the Broncos drop to 9-11. The Cats are back in action Saturday morning at 11 when they host Ball State. Head coach John Gross says now is the time for his team to knuckle up.
Right about now is where teams or players get gobbled up because it's a long season, and they make a choice consciously in their mind whether to push through and be tough and together and keep getting better in February, or are they going to be that team or teams that just that check out mentally?
Well, with the win, Ohio remains 1 game behind Akron, who was idle last night for the top spot in the MAC East. They also keep pace with Buffalo with that 4-2 conference mark and hold that tiebreaker. Kent State demolished 2-win Northern Illinois last night by 34, and Bowling Green took care of Central Michigan to improve their MAC records to 3-3. Meanwhile, Toledo won the battle of the bottom dwellers by knocking off Miami, keeping the Redhawks in the basement at 1-5. And Ohio Athletics has announced yet another Bobcat blackout, this time for men's basketball. The Convo will go dark on February 18th for the team's Bracket Buster game on ESPNU. The first official blackout was a 35-31 win over Temple in football, and the Bobcats also beat Marshall on the gridiron in the debut of those unis. Basketball's new look made its first appearance in Ohio's 87-65 win over Kent State. To add to the ambiance, the first 4,000 fans will receive black rally towels. The Cats' opponents for that game will be announced on Monday. And last night, the fireworks belonged to the Ohio women's team, who lost to Central Michigan 67-53. After Ohio took an early 4-2 lead, the Chippewas went on a 15-0 run and didn't look back. The story of the game, however, was a bench-clearing scuffle midway through the first half between Ohio's Portia Harris and CMU's Jasmine Bracey. Both players were ejected, and Harris is facing a 2-game suspension. Siobhan Robinson led the Cats with 14 points, while Tanisha Benson poured in 12. Ohio is back in action Saturday at Western Michigan. When you head out of the Convo this winter, most of the action could be found in Byrd Arena. Tomorrow, Ohio hockey welcomes in the nation's top-ranked club team. But this particular meeting means much more. This weekend, hockey fans will flock to Ohio's longtime home as the door closes on a long and storied matchup.
There was always that ramped-up energy every time Ohio and Penn State was on the ice.
Rivalry can be seen in all of sports. But in the world of collegiate club hockey, perhaps no two rivals make up their league's identity like the Ohio Bobcats and Icers of Penn State.
Penn State and Ohio University also had a number of people that were heavily involved in the whole creation of this ACHA. And so at the same time we had this competitive rivalry, we relied on each other to really sort of push the whole ACHA and to really where it is today.
Since the ACHA's inception in 1991, the two programs have been mainstays near the top of the national rankings. 4 times the two have met for the ultimate prize, each team coming away with 2 titles. And for a 10-year span, the two won a combined 9 championships. In that time, faces have come and gone, while some have remained constant.
From 95 to 2004, those 10 years, it was either Ohio or Penn State. So I think that they were the two class above and beyond, head and shoulders above everybody else.
But as they say, all good things must end. Penn State is now in its final year as an ACHA Division I club. Next year, the program makes the jump to the NCAA Division I level. This weekend marks the final regular season meeting between the two teams. The Bobcats will put their unbeaten home record on the line against the nation's #1 squad, while both programs pay tribute to 2 decades of memories.
You know, last time I didn't get to watch, I had to watch because I was hurt. So, you know, it's going to be really important to get to play against them for one last time.
So what a week of all weeks for Penn State to be coming in to Ohio, but between Joe Pa and just the sheer history of this rivalry, it's going to be a heck of a game.
It's going to be a good game. Thanks, Justin. And stay tuned tonight on WOUB.
Here's a look at what's coming up next on your public television station. And now, Katie, how's a look at last weather?
Yes, for tonight we will see a low of 33 degrees. There's a 90% chance to see heavy rain, and at best 1 inches are expected. And then for tomorrow it's going to be a high of 44, 50% chance to see some morning snow showers. And then there's going to be a little bit of snow on Friday, and then rain Saturday and Sunday, sunny on Monday.
All right, thanks, Katie.
Sure.
Well, that does it for our broadcast on this 26th day of January 2012. Thanks for watching. For Katie McGraw, Justin Sampson, and Dominique Buccina, I'm Morgan Lentes.
You can get the latest news and weather on the WOUB radio network, and you can view our program anytime online at WOUB.org. Have a great night.